He smiled like he knew her, but she froze like she didn't know him at all. And the dog. He sensed something none of us did. It was 3:12 p.m. on a breezy Friday when the final bell rang at Meadow Creek Elementary. Kids poured out in waves, their laughter echoing across the pickup zone. Sneakers squeaked against concrete, backpacks bounced, and the hum of parents idling in minivans filled the background. Crossing guards made small talk about the weekend weather, while teachers herded students toward familiar faces. Lucy Carter, age 7, sat on the front steps. Her pink glitter sneakers sparkled in the afternoon light, and her pigtails bounced slightly as she counted red cars for fun. She always waited for her mom Emma, who was reliably 5 minutes late because of the I-25 traffic jam, but Lucy never minded. Routine was her comfort. That Friday, though, something was off. An older man in a charcoal peacoat strolled up to the curb. He wasn't rushing, like most parents. He moved, slow, calculated, with graying hair and wire-rimmed glasses perched on his nose. Calm as a breeze, he scanned the crowd until his gaze settled on Lucy. Then he smiled. "Lucy," he called softly, like he was trying not to spook her. "Sweetheart, come here." Lucy's eyes narrowed. She didn't move. He stepped closer. "It's Grandpa Honey. Don't you remember me? That's when Blitz, the retired K9 from the county sheriff's department, now part of the school's Pause and Peace therapy dog program, lifted his head. He'd been napping peacefully next to Officer Deanna Rodriguez just moments ago, but now he was locked in. Blitz's body stiffened like lightning had cracked the earth. A low growl rumbled from his chest, deep, cold, and deliberate. Deanna blinked. Blitz didn't growl. He was 12 now, trained, tempered, tested. He'd spent years in service and knew the difference between a friendly stranger and something worse. "Easy, Blitz," she said calmly, reaching for his collar. But Blitz didn't flinch. He stood and growled again, louder this time. Deanna followed his eyes. The man stepped closer to Lucy, hand extended. "Emma asked me to come. She got stuck at the clinic, sweetie. I'm your grandpa, Joe. It's okay." Parents nearby began to glance over. One mum stopped mid-sentence. Lucy's face crumpled. She shook her head. A whisper escaped her lips. "That's not my grandpa." The man's smile faltered. "Lucy, I know it's been a while, but—" "No," she said louder now, her voice shaking. "He smells wrong." The man tilted his head. "What, he smells like metal and old wood? Grandpa smells like cinnamon and soap." Blitz barked once. Sharp, piercing, a sound that made people jump. Then again he lunged forward, restrained only by Deanna's grip on the leash. Hackles raised, teeth bared. "Sir, I need you to back up," Deanna said firmly, stepping between them. Her hand hovered over her utility belt, instinct, not habit. "I'm her grandfather." The man insisted, suddenly animated. "I have ID." "This is ridiculous." "The dog's confused. She said she doesn't know you," Deanna replied, her voice flat. "And Blitz." "He doesn't get confused." Lucy had begun to cry now, tears streaming as a nearby teacher wrapped an arm around her. Another teacher whispered, "We've never seen that man before." Someone in the crowd had already dialed 911. Blitz trembled, tension radiating from his body, his growl like a live wire beneath the surface. He wasn't barking out of confusion. He was warning. The man reached into his coat. "Slow," Deanna snapped. "Keep your hands where I can see them." The man hesitated, then slowly pulled out a wallet, revealing a driver's license and a folded document. "See," he huffed. "Joseph L. Carter. Her last name is Carter. I'm her grandfather, I swear." Deanna didn't take the papers. She kept Blitz steady and waited for the responding officers. Each second stretched like an eternity. Lucy sobbed into the teacher's coat. "He doesn't smell right," she whispered again. "He's not Grandpa." Finally, a squad car pulled in. Officer Daniels stepped out, took one look at the tense crowd and moved fast. He separated the man from the girl and began verifying the documents. Blitz sat, now quiet but alert, his eyes never leaving the man. Daniels scanned the ID, sent it to dispatch. And then it happened. Blitz growled again, but not at the man, at his briefcase. Deanna crouched next to it. "Permission to check your belongings, sir. You've got to be kidding me." "Consent or warrant?" "Your choice." With a frustrated sigh, he waved his hand. "Fine. But you're wasting your time. I just came to pick up my granddaughter." Inside the briefcase, Deanna found something that made her blood run cold. Prescription-grade sedatives, a roll of zip ties, and a child's pink baseball cap, embroidered with the name Lily. Lucy didn't own a hat like that, but 6 weeks ago a girl named Lily had vanished from Denver. Same age, same build. Daniel's voice dropped an octave. Turn around, hands behind your back. The man's mouth dropped. What, you can't blitz? Barked again. Final, absolute. The cuffs clicked shut. Lucy's sobs had quieted. She clung now to her teacher's leg, trembling less. That night, Blitz was fed steak by the principal. The sheriff gave him a new honorary badge. Lucy sat beside him on the bench outside the school, stroking the soft fur behind his ears. You knew, she whispered, even when I didn't. Blitz didn't answer. He didn't have to. He just laid his head in her lap and closed his eyes, like he'd finally earned his rest. The sirens had long faded. The man who called himself Grandpa Joe was now gone, taken away in the back of a squad car. But the ripple he left behind lingered in the air like a storm that had passed too close. The front of Meadow Creek Elementary, usually bustling with the after-school shuffle, now looked like something between a crime scene and a ghost town. Blitz, calm but vigilant, lay beside Officer Deanna Rodriguez as she tapped out a formal incident report on her department-issued tablet. His eyes stayed fixed on the school gate like he expected something else to come walking through. On the bench nearby, Lucy sat under a school fleece blanket blue with a cartoon eagle wearing sunglasses stitched across the back. She clutched a chocolate milk box with both hands like it might vanish if she let go. Inside the main office, Officer Daniels paced with the man's confiscated briefcase in one hand. It now sat open on the table under a clear plastic evidence cover. Zip ties, sedatives, a folded handkerchief with faint floral patterns, and that pink cap Lily stitched in careful cursive. None of it added up. Dispatch buzzed in. Daniels looked up as Deanna walked into the office. Nothing comes up under the name Joseph L. Carter. Not the driver's license, not the photo, nothing in the entire state. Deanna blinked. So it's fake. Daniels nodded. A damn good one. Full hologram, laminate layers, probably bought online. We'll need forensics to trace it. Deanna looked again at the hat. That doesn't belong to Lucy. No, but it might connect to someone else. Daniel's voice dropped. 6 weeks ago, a girl went missing from Denver. Lily Jane Foster, age 6. Blonde, blue eyes, vanished from her front yard while playing hopscotch. Deanna exhaled slowly. Jesus. There was silence, heavy and cold. Blitz let out a quiet sigh. He wasn't asleep. His ears still turned at every sound. Outside, Lucy leaned closer to her teacher. Can I pet Blitz again? The teacher nodded. Deanna waved them over. Blitz stood slowly as Lucy approached. His body softened, protective but welcoming. He let her wrap her arms around his neck and she pressed her cheek into his fur. She smiled, just a little. Deanna crouched beside her. Lucy, sweetheart, she said gently. Do you know where your mum is right now? We tried calling but couldn't get through. Lucy looked up, still holding Blitz. She's at work. The clinic. She always is on Fridays. Does she usually call when someone else is coming to pick you up? Lucy nodded. Always. She tells my teacher too. The teacher added, That's true. Emma always calls or texts when there's a change. She's never missed it. Deanna and Daniels exchanged a glance. Then Daniels' radio crackled. Unit 34 to command suspect is refusing to talk. Requested a lawyer. We're running prints now, back at the precinct in interview room 2. Detective Claire Monroe walked in holding a file and a coffee that had gone cold in her hand. She had been pulled from her lunch for this case. The man inside looked like someone's grandfather. Mid-60s, soft voice, calm demeanor, the kind of person who asks for directions at the grocery store and makes polite jokes at the DMV. That was what made him dangerous. Forensics returned the prints. His real name, Thomas Edward Langston. Criminal records sealed in multiple states, but what wasn't sealed painted a chilling picture. Attempted child abduction, Illinois, 1998. No conviction. Charges dropped. Linked, unofficially, to a missing child case in Oregon, 2011, never proven until now. Meanwhile, back at Meadow Creek, a car screeched into the lot. Emma Carter, Lucy's mum, her face was pale with panic, phone still in her hand, car door half open behind her. She sprinted to the front bench. "Oh my God, Lucy!" She dropped to her knees, wrapping her daughter in a tight, shaking hug. Lucy let out a quiet whimper. He said he was Grandpa. But he wasn't. Emma's eyes locked on Deanna. Confused, furious, heartbroken. Who was that man? Deanna kept her voice gentle. "We're still working on his full identity, but I can tell you one thing, Lucy is safe. Thanks to Blitz." Emma looked at the dog. Her anger dissolved into something else, something deeper. She knelt beside Blitz and wrapped her arms around him too. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, the local news opened with a headline that left viewers frozen mid-bite. "Retired canine prevents attempted kidnapping outside Meadow Creek Elementary. Suspect may be tied to multiple disappearances." The footage showed Blitz being handed a bone the size of a small loaf of bread. Cameras flashed, officers smiled, reporters swarmed. Cut to Emma holding Lucy's hand. "I thought it was just a normal Friday," she said. "If Blitz hadn't been there, if Lucy hadn't spoken up." She couldn't finish. She didn't need to. Back at the station around midnight, Deanna and Daniels sat in the break room nursing cold coffee in silence. "You think he was after Lucy specifically?" Daniels asked. Deanna nodded, slow and sure. "I do. But I don't think she was the only one." She flipped through the evidence photos again. The child's gloves. The map of school districts stored on Langston's phone. The pink cap. This wasn't spontaneous. This was a system. In the parking lot, Blitz lay curled in the back of Deanna's SUV, finally resting, but not sleeping. His ears flicked at every noise, his body still half alert, ready. He hadn't barked in hours, but if you watched closely enough, you could see it. He was still listening. The next morning, the conference room at the Carter County Sheriff's Office looked like a war room. Photos, maps, timelines, every inch of the whiteboard was covered in sticky notes and red arrows. A laptop quietly played muted footage from school surveillance cameras. The team was quiet, heads down, jaws set. Detective Claire Monroe leaned against the edge of the table, a black coffee in one hand and the weight of unease in the other. She hadn't smiled since 600 a.m. "This guy didn't just stumble on Meadow Creek," she said flatly. "He was watching it. For days. Weeks, maybe." Across from her, Deanna Rodriguez sat with her arms crossed. Blitz lay motionless at her feet, a silent sentinel. Calm, but listening. They had just reviewed Langston's cell tower pings. 4 different elementary schools across the region, all in the same time window, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m., dismissal hours. Each school was in a quiet neighborhood, low crime, high trust, minimal security. Schools with no full-time resource officers. Streets where parents left their cars unlocked. "Classic predator profile," Monroe muttered, flipping through surveillance prints. "He didn't force entry. He blended in. Thomas Edward Langston, 64. Occupation unknown. Aliases at least 5 confirmed, possibly more. Modus operandi: pose as a family member during pickup. Wait for the right child. Approach with calm familiarity." It was disturbingly simple. Deanna stared at a photo of Lucy's encounter printed side by side with a missing poster for Lily Jane Foster. Same man, same expression, same coat. Back at home, Lucy was curled up under her frozen blanket on the living room couch, Blitz lying peacefully beside her. Emma Carter sat in the recliner nearby, answering yet another call from the school district. "Yes, we're okay. Yes, I'll give a formal statement." She paused, her voice trembling. "No, she's not going back next week. We're considering transferring." She looked at her daughter, tracing circles into Blitz's fur. "You know," Lucy whispered, not looking up. "I think Blitz can talk. Just not with words." Emma opened her mouth but said nothing. What could you say to something that felt that true? Back at the station, Monroe discovered something chilling. Forensics had nearly missed it, a USB drive tucked into a hidden panel in Langston's suitcase. Small, black, unlabeled, encrypted, but no match for the FBI's cyber unit. By 10 a.m. the drive was unlocked. Dozens of photographs loaded onto the screen. Not posed, not planned, just children, kids at recess, kids walking home, kids waiting near buses or sitting alone on playgrounds. Candid shots from a long lens, unnoticed, vulnerable. Each image was time-stamped, each placed in folders by city: Denver, Ogden, Carter County. One folder read Meadow Creek, Lucy. Deanna felt something crack inside her. This wasn't random, Monroe said quietly. He was building a catalogue. He wasn't a drifter, Deanna replied. He was an archivist. She excused herself from the room, white-knuckling her coffee mug. Blitz followed. They stood by the back fence, cold air slicing through her sleeves. She stared out at the tree line. "He's done this before," she murmured. "And not every kid had someone like you watching." Blitz pressed against her leg. No bark, no growl, just presence. Inside, Monroe opened another folder labeled SFX Library. At first she thought it was unrelated, then she hit play. Dozens of audio clips, children singing ABCs, reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, whispering secrets. He said, "It's our little secret." The final clip was labeled Lily the Say Last Wave. Monroe's hand hovered over the mouse. She didn't press play. Instead, she forwarded the drive to the district attorney's office and called in a federal escalation. By noon, the FBI was involved. Langston was now suspected in 3 confirmed missing child cases and possibly connected to at least 2 others, including one from 2007 in New Mexico. And no child had ever been recovered. Until Lucy, thanks to Blitz. That evening, Deanna knocked on Emma Carter's door. She wasn't in uniform, no badge, just a folder in hand and a look that said this wasn't over. "I wanted to drop this off," she said. Inside the folder was a certificate, simple but meaningful. Certificate of Honor awarded to Blitz retired K-9 unit for outstanding bravery and protection of civilians. Blitz's paw print was stamped in ink at the bottom. Emma's voice caught. "Can we frame it?" "Absolutely," Deanna said. Lucy peeked around the corner. "It's going on the wall, right?" Emma nodded. "Top center." Blitz wagged once and settled on the welcome mat. That night, Lucy placed a bowl of kibble not in the kitchen, but by her bedroom window. When her mum asked why, Lucy just said, "Just in case Blitz wants to guard me from the moon." And so it stayed there, every night. Across town, the FBI entered a small storage unit rented under one of Langston's known aliases. Inside, they found a second suitcase, a burner phone, a printed bus schedule, a photograph of another little girl, same age, same backpack, red hair, holding a lunchbox that read, "Be kind," and another USB, the folder name, Bayfront, Option 1. Langston wasn't finished, and now it was clear he wasn't working alone. Monday morning brought more than misty skies. It brought a storm quiet at first, the kind that didn't flash or roar but crept in slow. It began with a single surveillance photo discovered in Langston's second suitcase, now in FBI hands. The image was grainy but clear enough. A little girl, red hair, purple backpack, ladybug lunchbox. Her name stitched across the top in bright cursive was Maya. Beneath the photo, handwritten in thin pen, Bayfront Option 1. Bayfront Elementary sat nearly an hour south of Carter County, tucked into a sleepy coastal town with white fences and pastel-painted homes, a place where bad things weren't supposed to happen, a place where they nearly had. By noon, the school district was alerted. Maya's parents were brought in. "We don't know this man," Maya's father said, holding a photo of Langston with trembling hands. She never said anything about a stranger. But when Maya was shown a picture of her own backpack, the one in Langston's suitcase, her face turned pale. "That's mine," she whispered. But that's not where I left it." Back in Carter County, Deanna sat in her SUV watching rain slide across the windshield. Blitz rested beside her, quiet, but not asleep. His eyes blinked slowly and his ears twitched every few seconds. "They found another one, Bud," she murmured. "Maya. Red hair. 6 years old." He was watching her too. Blitz didn't respond. He didn't have to. His eyes said enough. That night, Deanna's phone rang. It was Special Agent Helen Shaw, the lead on the now-named Langston Task Force. "You're not going to like this," she said. Langston wasn't acting alone. Deanna stiffened. "Go on." "We pulled texts from a burner found in the second suitcase. 5 messages, recent, all encrypted, all untraceable." Shaw read them aloud. "Option 1 confirmed. Backpack matches, window of opportunity next Thursday, low risk. Same method, no deviation, do not engage Carter girl again, too noisy, eyes on Bayfront. Stick to the list. Deanna let the silence stretch, her jaw tightened. Too noisy, she said. That's what they called Lucy. A little girl who screamed, Shaw said. A little girl who listened to her gut. And a dog that listened harder. Deanna's voice was firm. Send me everything you've got on Bayfront. I'm heading there Wednesday, Bayfront Elementary. Wednesday afternoon. Fog rolled in off the coast like a slow-breathing ghost. The swings hung still. Kids played under a grey sky. Deanna arrived in plain clothes. She wasn't on duty, but the school board had welcomed her with open arms after Shaw pulled strings. Blitz moved across the perimeter like a machine. Nose low, ears pivoting, nothing. For a while. Then near the chain-link fence by the playground, he stopped. A low growl vibrated from his chest, not like before, not loud, steady, focused. Deanna crouched beside him. What is it? Boy Blitz sniffed under a bush near the fence. A wrapper, banana Laffy Taffy. Fresh, then just beyond the brush Deanna saw it. A child's sock. Pink, unicorn print. Tiny. The tag read, property of Maya. Her pulse quickened. She called it in immediately. Evidence was bagged. Cameras reviewed. Bayfront only had one outdoor security camera facing the rear parking lot. The footage showed a white van idling for 14 minutes. No one got out. The plates were stolen. The driver wore a hoodie. His face was never visible. It's the same M.O. Shaw told her later. No fingerprints, no facial match, but the timeline fits. We're dealing with more than one predator. We just don't know where the other one is. Blitz hadn't stopped pacing since. Neither had Deanna. That night she sat in her dim kitchen, a mug of untouched coffee in front of her, and a pinned map of local schools beside it. She traced her finger along the coast. There was a pattern, she could feel it. Not just randomness. Every targeted school had a perimeter fence under 5 feet. At least one back route to woods or alleys. Afternoon pickup zones with inconsistent staffing. Then she saw it. Harborview Lutheran. 8 miles from Bayfront. Private, minimal security, no public cameras. Someone had reported a white van there 2 weeks earlier, out of place. Her gut twisted. She grabbed her jacket and Blitz's leash. Thursday, 3rd of 15 p.m., Harborview. Lutheran was dismissing under overcast skies. SUVs crawled through the carpool lane. Teachers called names into walkie-talkies. Kids splashed through puddles. Deanna and Blitz sat behind a row of parked cars across the street. He wasn't watching the gate. He was watching the alley. Then he stiffened. A man in a yellow poncho stood beside a green dumpster, not smoking, not on his phone, just watching. Blitz growled, then barked. Once, sharp, final. The man looked, saw them, and ran. Deanna's instincts snapped into gear. She unclipped Blitz, who launched forward like a missile. They chased him down the alley, through puddles, around trash bins. Dead end. Blitz didn't hesitate. He slammed into the man, teeth clamped, not biting, but holding, controlling. By the time Deanna reached them, the man's poncho was torn and Blitz had him pinned, jaw locked around his wrist. Deanna searched his pockets. A list. 3 schools, 3 names, 3 time slots, one of them Maya, Thursday. 20 p.m. The man screamed, I didn't touch her, I didn't do anything. But Deanna had heard all she needed. Some men lie even when they're caught. But dogs know the truth the second it enters a room. The man in the yellow poncho now sat in interrogation room B at the Bayfront Police Department. Sweat clung to his shirt like guilt. His eyes darted from corner to corner, hands cuffed tightly in front of him. He looked small under the buzzing fluorescent lights. Name, Calvin Royce Miller, age 52. Last known address, Bakersfield, California. No warrants. A few low-level charges, trespassing, petty theft, drug possession. Nothing that screamed predator, until now. Behind the glass, Deanna stood shoulder to shoulder with Special Agent Helen Shaw, both watching Calvin twist in his seat like the metal chair was on fire. Blitz lay at Deanna's feet, quiet as stone but alert. He hasn't said a word, Deanna asked. Not yet, Shaw replied, but he's unraveling. Calvin hadn't expected Blitz. No one ever did. Inside the room, Detective Claire Monroe slid a folder across the table. We know who you are, Calvin, she said evenly. We know what you were doing outside that school. Calvin scoffed. Loitering's not illegal. You weren't loitering, Monroe shot back. You were timing dismissal, watching Maya Sanderson, and you were working with Thomas Langston. You know who he is, don't you? His jaw twitched. "I've never heard of him," he muttered. Monroe didn't blink. She laid out photos, bayfront maps, a timeline with circled dates. Maya's unicorn sock, the surveillance shot of the white van, and then the smoking gun. "Langston had your number saved as Rook." She paused. "Guess you were his pawn." Something broke in Calvin's eyes. "He said it'd be clean," he muttered under his breath. "No mess, no screaming. In and out." Outside, Deanna and Shaw stiffened. They had the link. Langston was the architect, Calvin the muscle. 30 minutes later, the dam burst. Calvin started talking, not because he was brave, but because he was afraid. "He found me online," he said. "Encrypted forums, invite-only links." They called it Pavilion. Shaw took notes furiously behind the glass. I scouted, took photos, watched patterns. Langston did the tech stuff. "What kind of kids were you looking for?" Monroe asked, her voice steady. Calvin swallowed hard. "Quiet ones. Lonely ones. Ones who wouldn't scream." Deanna's stomach twisted. "How many?" Monroe asked. "4 successful," he whispered. 2 failed. Meadow Creek busted. The kid screamed. The dog messed everything up. Shaw cursed under her breath. And Maya, she was next, on the trial list. We hadn't acted yet, just watching her, seeing if she'd flinch. "Trial list," Monroe echoed. Calvin nodded. They were ranked. Personality, appearance, risk level. It was like a damn scorecard. The room went silent. Deanna clenched her fists. She had seen sick before, but this was systematized evil. Later that afternoon, the FBI's mobile command post buzzed with tension. Shaw stood at the front of a crowded room filled with agents, techs, and cyber analysts. On the screen behind her, Langston's decrypted USB drive now fully accessed. What they found wasn't just personal, it was a marketplace. Candidate submissions, collection logs, drop schedules, behavior ratings, dozens of names, folders categorized by city, images, audio files, tracking data, and among them 2 that hit like a punch to the chest, Maya and Lucy. Some of the other children were already listed in missing persons databases, others weren't. Yet. That evening, Deanna returned to the Carter home. Emma opened the door, a 1,000-yard stare still in her eyes. "Any updates?" Deanna nodded. "We caught a second man. He was watching a girl named Maya." "Another school?" Emma's throat tightened. "Was he working with, Yes, Langston." She paused. Lucy's name was on the list. She wasn't just a random target. She was the target, top of their list. They backed off because Blitz got in the way, because she screamed. Emma looked ready to crumble. She sat slowly. He didn't just scare them off. Deanna nodded. He shattered their system. From behind the hallway, Lucy stepped forward in a Captain Marvel t-shirt, holding a drawing, crayon on printer paper. It showed Blitz in a cape, standing tall in front of a school. "I drew it for him," she said quietly. Deanna smiled and crouched. "He'll love it." Blitz trotted in from the yard. He sniffed the drawing carefully, then gently nudged Lucy's shoulder with his nose. Approval, gratitude, loyalty. That night, across town at Bayfront County Jail, Calvin Miller was placed on suicide watch. Federal charges were coming: interstate child trafficking, conspiracy to commit abduction, aiding a known fugitive. He wasn't smiling anymore. Meanwhile, at the Bayfront Civic Center, a very different event was unfolding. Blitz was being honored. A crowd of kids and parents had gathered to meet the dog who didn't retire. Reporters asked for statements. Officers offered awards. The mayor handed him a giant bone. Blitz didn't care for the fanfare. But when Lucy walked onto the stage and wrapped her arms around his neck, his tail wagged once and he laid down beside her, as if to say, "This is all I ever wanted. To protect." Back in Washington, D.C., Agent Shaw sat at her desk, staring at a new report just landed from Interpol. A third alias tied to Langston, a new country, and a missing child in Prague. The ring wasn't just national, it was global. And Blitz hadn't just broken up a plan. He had triggered a worldwide manhunt. 2 weeks after Calvin Miller's arrest, the FBI task force had uncovered over 50 pages of data photo logs, encrypted messages, behavior scores, buried inside Langston's USBs. What looked like a digital scrapbook was actually a ledger of evil. Each child was a line item. each folder a calculated risk. One folder wouldn't leave Agent Shaw's mind. Pavilion User 76, single photo, one word, Anaka. Age 8, country Czech Republic. Status acquired, location Prague, 2021. No missing persons report filed under that name. No public alert, no police record, no birth certificate in any open database until they checked the archives of a Czech orphanage. A girl, curly hair, no known family, disappeared one autumn afternoon. The file had been labeled runaway. No investigation followed, just a forgotten line in a spreadsheet. Shaw stared at the photo of Anaka. Big eyes, wary expression, shoulders too heavy for someone so small. She closed her laptop and turned to her team. This story isn't over. Back in Carter County, Blitz lay under a wide oak tree in Deanna's backyard, chewing gently on a knotted rope toy. It was quiet, the kind of peace earned, not given. Emma and Lucy had dropped by earlier to hang a framed version of Lucy's drawing over the fireplace. Blitz in a superhero cape, standing in front of a school. Above it the words in crayon. He hears what we can't. Deanna's phone buzzed. It was Shaw. We found a girl, she said. Years ago, different continent. But tied to Langston's aliases, he's been doing this a long time. Is she still alive? Deanna asked quietly. Shaw paused. We don't know, but we have to keep looking. Blitz bought us time. Let's use it. Over the next week, arrests were made in Portland, Miami, Atlanta. More names, more photos, more children marked for disappearance, some listed as runaways, others never reported at all. The task force now spanned 3 continents, and it had all started with a single growl. Back in Carter County, Lucy returned to school. Her first time in weeks, she held her mum's hand and carried a stuffed version of Blitz the police department had commissioned for a fundraiser. When she entered her classroom, her classmates clapped. Her teacher gave her a gentle hug. Lucy walked to the front of the class, quiet, but certain. If someone makes you feel weird or scared, she said, even if they smile or say they know you, you can say no, you can scream, you can run. That's not being bad. She paused, then added, that's being smart. The room was silent. Then every hand in the room went up. Lucy smiled. In the months that followed, Blitz became a quiet legend. Children's books were written about him. Police departments began rotating K-9 officers into school districts more regularly. TV stations asked for interviews, but Blitz never changed. He didn't care for the cameras. He only wagged his tail for kids like Lucy, kids like Maya, and kids like Annika, wherever she might be. 6 months later in Washington, D.C., a ceremony was held in the Capitol building to honor the Carter County Task Force. Deanna stood at the podium, Blitz seated at her feet in a polished K-9 vest. She didn't speak about medals, or warrants, or takedowns. She spoke about trust. We put our trust in uniforms, in ID cards, in polite smiles. But sometimes it's the child who senses something's wrong. Sometimes it's the dog who listens harder than we do. Blitz didn't wait for permission. He didn't worry about being wrong. He acted, and that's what saved Lucy. That's what exposed the list. That's why he's not just a retired K-9. He's a reminder that courage doesn't always wear a badge. 3 months after that Prague, a girl with wild curls stepped cautiously out of a therapy center into sunlight for the first time in years. Anaka. She didn't smile, not yet. But in her hands was a postcard, a photo of Blitz. Big ears, kind eyes, grey around the muzzle. Underneath, handwritten in neat print, you were never forgotten. The lesson, sometimes we expect evil to look loud, to be obvious. But most of the time it whispers, it blends, it walks through school gates like it belongs. That's why listening matters, to instincts, to quiet voices, to the growl that others dismiss. Silence isn't always safety. Bravery doesn't always bark. Let's raise our children to trust their gut. Let's pay attention when something feels off. Let's never ignore the small signals. Because sometimes heroes don't walk on 2 legs. Sometimes they wait, they remember, and they lead us home.